What is the best movie theory ever? Skynet purposely lets humans survive because without them, it wouldn't have a purpose. There's enough nuclear weapons in the US arsenal to irradiate the entire planet, yet only a relatively small amount were launched by Skynet. After Judgment Day, Skynet could easily poison water supplies, raze every forest and farmland, and release biological and chemical weapons, making it impossible to survive. But they don't. I'm fond of the Back to the Future theory that Doc knew Marty died when Biff was about to run him down in his car at the end of the tunnel in the second movie. Doc drops the flag rope at the last possible second. But there's no way he could have known to do that unless Marty got hit and died the first time, which prompted Doc to use the DeLorean to jump back to before that happened in order to use that knowledge to save him. That's heavy. Agent Smith is the one, not Neo. It's prophesied the one would be born in the Matrix, be able to bend it to their will, and would ultimately free all the humans. Smith, a program, was born in the Matrix, whereas Neo, a human, was born in those giant human farms the machines run. Smith totally took over the Matrix, like completely. Neo can fly and stop bullets and crap, but that's nothing compared to Smith. He even joked, "You like what I've done with the place?" He made the Matrix completely his. Smith is more responsible for freeing the humans than Neo. The machines never would have agreed to free them all unless they were at Smith's mercy. Neo may have negotiated the deal, but it was Smith who made it possible. Plus, the Oracle even tells Neo he's not the one in the very first film. Smith and Neo are one and the same, two sides of a coin in the words of the Oracle. They are both the one. Perhaps calling Neo a 1 and Smith a 0 would be more accurate for the way the Matrix works. I'm going to go with a great Reddit gem from a few years back. The thing I really like about planes is that we learned that World War II happened in the Cars universe, which means there was a Cars Hitler, a Cars Holocaust, a Cars Pacific War, a Cars D-Day, a Cars nuking of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, a Cars rape of Nanking, a Cars Battle of Iwo Jima. This leads to so many important questions, like, were the Cars little boy and fat man nukes sentient? Was it a suicide mission? Are all Cars nuclear weapons sentient? Did Tsar Bomba have a personality? What kind of car was Car Hitler? A VW? A forklift? Was there a Cars 911? Were the planes hijacked? Or were the planes themselves radicalized? I could go on. In Lilo and Stitch, Lilo is late for her hula class because she has to go and give a peanut butter sandwich to Pudge, the fish. Lilo's parents died when they went out for a drive in the rain, and presumably got into a car wreck. Pudge, as we are informed, controls the weather. Lilo's making a weekly sandwich sacrifice to appease the fish god Pudge, so he doesn't take anyone else she loves. That's why it's so important she doesn't give him a tuna sandwich. There's a deleted scene where Stitch kills Pudge and Lilo scolds him because Pudge was part of her ohana. I think she just liked the fish. Luke's success as a Jedi Knight, at least initially, was due to a stable home life. We all know the old order was flawed, but one of their biggest flaws was the way that they raised their Jedi children. They were taught that attachments were bad and should be avoided at all cost. One of the most brutal attachments that Jedi try to avoid is love, but avoiding love isn't easy. So the Jedi, taught to be blank emotionless knights, end up feeling the pull of attachments, which is fine until you lose that attachment. They are unable to cope because they were never taught to cope with loss, so they either accept that loss as the will of the Force, which is dispassionate and dangerous in its own right, or they let their grief control them. Luke, on the other hand, had a normal and stable childhood, with 2 loving adoptive parents. So Luke got to be raised in an environment where he wasn't taught to hide away from his emotions. He was raised in an environment where he could love, lose, and have a shoulder to cry on. It made him emotionally stable, so when the dark side calls to him, he doesn't fall as easily as every other Jedi in the history of the galaxy. Also, the thing that the Jedi do preach he has actually experienced. They are always going on about compassion, but that's rote to them. Luke has actually experienced true compassion and love. So to sum up, Jedi should be allowed to bone. The machines in the Matrix weren't keeping the humans around for power generation. There are countless more efficient, as in actually workable, power sources they could use without creating a whole virtual world that can't be cheap. They do use the waste heat to recoup some of the energy lost from the ridiculously power-intensive system. The humans seeing these generators figured they were the purpose of the Matrix, since they assumed the machines were malevolent and couldn't think of another reason for them to keep humans alive. I believe, however, that they were trying to do this to preserve humanity, whether because of a program directive or a real belief in the value of their creators. Morpheus said that humanity intentionally blocked out the sun. Whatever reason humanity did it, intentionally or not, it was the stupidest plan imaginable. It would destroy the ecosystem and kill agriculture. The humans were dooming themselves, as humanity had proven itself a danger to itself and ensured that resources would be insufficient for their survival, barring a level of resource management they weren't capable of without extreme conflict. The machines built an asylum so humanity would survive. The first Matrix was built as a paradise. They bore no malice toward their mentally ill creator. We get a glimpse of the surface and it is a dark hellscape, completely devoid of light and life. How could the world's population survive in that world? Do you think we'd settle for a fair allotment of tasteless nutrient slurry every day? Number. As soon as there were two settlements and no common foe, we'd fight each other for resources, as we always have. Even if we did efficiently share resources as well as the machines had without complaint or conflict, what sort of life would that be? The Matrix, while artificial, retains the natural beauty of the world that was and provides far more comfort, like absolutely any food that isn't nutrient slurry. Who'd want to live in the dead land of eternal night and toxic storm, while apparently callous on the individual level to humanize and preferring control to freedom? They feel they are sacrificing dozens, perhaps hundreds, to save billions. Would you amputate a finger to save a life? A finger is far more than a millionth of your body. That Event Horizon is set in the Warhammer 40k universe and is considered to be the discovery of the warp by humanity. That the Spy Kids movies take place within the Tarantino universe. Because it is directed by Robert Rodriguez, there are elements of the Machete-verse present, namely that Machete is the protagonist's freaking uncle. There's plenty of material that connects the Rodriguez universe with the Tarantino movies, but if you watch Rodriguez's kids movies, Spy Kids 1, 2, and 3, as well as Shark Boy and La Vageral, there are little Tarantino details like Big Kahuna burgers and such. I think it was actually confirmed that Spy Kids and Machete are in the same universe. John Wick is Neo, one level deeper into the Matrix. That would explain why seemingly everyone in NYC is a hitman in disguise. They are not assassins, they are agents. Stingy nuked everything around LazyTown, because it wasn't his, and framed Robbie. That's why LazyTown is surrounded by wasteland and Robbie is an outcast. Also, the reason we only ever see 10 or so people in the show is that all the other inhabitants stay indoors like Robbie to avoid radiation. The people are plasticine as a result of the radiation. Sporticus and Stephanie are normal because Sporticus lives in the sky and Stephanie is new in town. Robbie lives in a bunker so he's only slightly affected. Sporticus is inadvertently killing the townspeople by telling them to go outside where they are exposed to radiation. It all makes sense. Holy freaking crap, wow. My favorite is for the Mad Max universe. It's that there never was an apocalypse. That's just what Australia is like. Ned Ryson is pulling an Inception on Phil Connors to get him to buy insurance. It's not just a coincidence that Phil pulls out of his infinite loop on the day that he buys a full boat of insurance from Needlenose Ned. That the monsters in Cloverfield were specifically targeting people who drank the energy drink that Rob worked for. At one point Hud says it's almost like they were trying to carry me away, and earlier in the film he mentioned he drank a lot of the stuff. It is interesting because the monsters were killing everybody upon sight but they began dragging him away instead. Viral marketing campaign for the movie was deep, and through that we learned that the energy drink company was also drilling the ocean floor and likely using that crap in drinks, so a giant monster coming out of the ocean and targeting people who've consumed these weird ocean floor ingredients isn't all that insane. Also in the film they show a satellite crash into the ocean if you look closely. I think this is a trick to make casual viewers just think it was the satellite that woke the monster, and this is what most fans online believed when the film was popular. but I'm pretty certain it was that Japanese drilling drink company, and even then, I'm sure there are way more details I don't remember. I guess this all counts as a theory because it was put together from fake MySpace profiles and websites, manipulating audio files, and crap like that. Not much info was in the actual film. Spoiler below. I definitely do think there was something to the fact the monsters tried to carry Hud away instead of just killing him. And if I remember correctly, it was the main monster that finally snatched him up and ate him, rather than just ripping him apart or something. The Rock universe. Every movie where Dwayne Johnson's bull tattoo appear are part of the same universe. The Fast and Furious franchise is the same universe as Baywatch. Rampage is a direct sequel to San Andreas, but Moana and the Mummy franchise are not part of the universe. We don't have flying cars because Marty McFly didn't race needles. Doc invented flying cars when he saw his friend ruin his life in a tragic car accident. That didn't happen, so we lost out on flying cars. If the movie had a sad ending where Marty decided to race needles, someone might have been inspired to invent flying cars. This theory was relayed to me by my best friend's 9-year-old son. It may not be the best, but it's definitely my favorite. Also, the only reason there were hoverboards in 2015 was because Marty popularized skateboards earlier than they would have been, so there was more time to turn it into a hoverboard. My theory is about the room. I believe Johnny is actually a mentally handicapped individual and Lisa and Mark are his caretakers. Denny is another handicapped kid who lives at the facility. The story is told from Johnny's point of view and he doesn't realize he is essentially retarded and believes he's in a relationship with Lisa. Lisa and Mark are in fact in a relationship and the movie is just Johnny's interpretation of what is occurring. Meanwhile, he's simply living in a care facility. That's why everyone lives in the same apartment building. What a story. Inception wedding ring. In the film, anytime Leonardo DiCaprio has a wedding ring on, he is in a dream. This is his true totem, not the spinning top. From what I have watched, it seems to hold up and gives the ending a proper resolution. I like the one for Mad Max Fury Road, in which each of the war leaders represent the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The people eater being famine because he scales out everything and is clearly gluttonous while so many others are starving. The bullet farmer is war because he makes weapons and has a mindless pursuit for war. Immortan Joe is conquest because he hunts people down to enslave them and worship him as their god. And finally Max is death because everywhere he goes and everyone he encounters dies, except Furiosa. And that's why she wins, because she has death on her side. That Zion in Matrix trilogy was also another simulation and gave humans who resisted the Matrix an outlet, a purpose, to fight against the bad guys. The architect kinda says something along these lines when talking to Neo. That is indeed confirmed by the architect. It's not a computer simulation, but the whole setup is a bull's orchestrated cycle that's repeated numerous times. Seeking a friend for the end of the world. At the end, when Dodge falls asleep listening to records, he wakes up to Penny in the room and they cuddle until the asteroid hits. I think it was all a dream, because nothing could wake her up when she slept, and she had no transportation to make it back. Dodge died alone. Max in Mad Max Fury Road was actually the kid from Road Warrior who emulated the original Maximum. He only gives his name at the very end because he's finally acting like a hero and now feels he's worthy of the name Maximum. It explains the differences in look, problems in continuity, and why Max isn't as old as Immortan Joe. I like the idea that all of the Mad Max movies are just different stories in a new folklore told by the post-apocalyptic people about a mythical character named Max. Kinda like Paul Bunyan or Pecos Bill. I can just see them sitting around the campfire while the standing one goes, so then Max jumps up on the war rig and Han knows a parsec is a unit of distance. He's trying to see how gullible Luke is. Jedi fall into darkness at the drop of a hat because their teachings are fundamentally flawed. The core of their code is to open yourself up to the Force and follow its guidance. That's all and good when you intend to do good, and so the Force guides you on how best to do good. But the moment you dip your toe into darker impulses, the Force is suddenly guiding you to do evil, and you've Pavloved yourself to instantly and unthinkingly obeying the Force's guidance. Hence Anakin and his instant and dramatic fall where he goes from "you can't just kill him, that would be against the Jedi way" to "sure, I'll slaughter children in the course of an hour." The stronger you are with the Force, the faster you fall because of the Jedi teaching, not despite them. Neat theory, although it's pretty obvious Anakin doesn't want Mace to kill Palpatine for selfish reasons as Anakin screams I need him at Mace before he raises his lightsaber. Anakin is pleading with Mace and tries to appeal to his role as a Jedi Master more than any altruistic feelings. That Doofenshmirtz is Phineas' father. His mom and Doofenshmirtz used to date and he lives with his stepfather, not his father. Also, would explain why they both love making inventions and why their heads are the same exact shape. The theory that the cars in the Cars universe have humans enclosed in them Matrix style. Why else would they have written human language, doors, eyes, and school buses? The Avatar The Last Airbender movie was not about the Avatar series but the play they watched at the theater in the Fire Nation. Team Avatar reacting to the play. Katara, horrible. Toph, you said it. Soccer, but the effects were decent. Barry Benson from the B movie is actually Freddie Benson's, from iCarly Dad. The Joker in The Dark Knight is an ex-soldier special forces operative, hence why he's skilled with various different weapons, guns, rocket launchers etc. He also seems to have some knowledge of how to interrogate people given his comments when Batman interrogates him. Ex-cop or ex-military makes sense. Also, don't forget the scene where he's in uniform but not in makeup. A war wound would also explain the scars. Maybe he was tortured until he broke. My bro's theory. After the Home Alones, Kevin runs away and is eventually taken in by a family that already has a son and a daughter. Distraught by the fact that his actual family has forgotten about him more than once, he decides to terrorize his new family and the good son. I've heard his affinity for booby traps led him to become Jigsaw in Saw. I like to think that 70s show was a prequel to RoboCop. Red gets fed up with all the crap and moves to Detroit. Stanley Azua to the Watcher. That E.T. is Darth Plagueis is the Wise. Theory's been debunked but is by far my favorite. I wish I had taken the time to hear about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Birdman didn't actually survive his suicide on stage. The hospital scene in the end was just Reagan's dream scenario. His wife defending him, his best friend being excited for their success, their play being a success, his daughter bringing the correct flowers, him being on front page of the newspaper and getting noticed on TV, and finally him being Birdman. Another point to support this, the gunshot is the first explicit edit in the movie, minus the unrelated intro. Up until that point everything was shot as though it were a fluid one take. This cut is intentional to signal he died. Quentin Tarantino's Top Gun is a gay romance theory. I've seen gay pee that's not as homoerotic as that volleyball scene. In the first episode of Pokemon Ash sees Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is said to grant the trainers who see him eternal happiness. Ash's idea of eternal happiness was probably to travel around the world of Pokemon forever, so he is always 10 throughout the series. Furthermore, the reason he never wins the Pokemon League because he would probably stop traveling as he would be the champion and end his journey. The Terminator movie series is a prequel to the Matrix movie series. Dale knew everything about Nancy and John Redcorn. Dale is a conspiracy theorist and will believe the dumbest things. However, he is also a freelance exterminator who begs for work. Even though he is the best at what he does, business isn't booming. His wife makes a lot more than he does, has a stable job, and lets him have the basements for his doomsday shelter preparations. Dale gets to live comfortably while his wife does most of the work. He knows Joseph isn't his kid, but he also knows how much that tears up John Redcorn up inside, that he will never have that connection of being a father or being with Nancy. Nancy feels horrible and guilt over the 10+ year love affair. Meanwhile, Dale gets to live his life, hang out with his friends, work part-time, and continue his hobbies. Later on in the series, Nancy and John stop being together when Nancy falls in love with Dale again. John is still invited to parties and even starts a band with Dale. At the end of it all, Dale is an evil mastermind. You never mess with a man's lawn. There is also a theory that Jessica Fletcher, Murder She Wrote, was the real killer behind all the murders. Aladdin takes place in a post-apocalyptic world 10,000 years past current times. That is why the world is a desert and the genie, having just been freed from the lamp, references pop culture from the 20th century. Or maybe being all powerful means he can time travel too. Or at least look through time. When he says you'll never find a girl like that in 10,000 years, believe me, I've looked. I didn't take that to mean he lived 10,000 years and was looking for chicks that whole time, but that he literally looked 10,000 years into the future. You've been visited by Swining Thick Boy. Like and comment swing well thick boy and you'll be blessed with many thick woofers in your life. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.